This is the Cash Value Solutions Podcast, where your hosts, Jason Pohlmeyer and Kyle Manns, shed light on little-known money truths to help you take control of your financial future and become your own banker. Subscribe, rate, and review the show, and check us out at cashvaluesolutions.com.
All right, Kyle, we're here. We're ready to get started on the book review of Becoming Your Own Banker, Nelson Nash's best-selling book. Where are we going to get started?
Well, we're going to get started right in the front, right in the introduction here.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so why was this book written? Nelson had a 10-hour course of instruction that he traveled around giving. It was a seminar that he taught people. And this is a book of instruction about the power of dividend-paying whole life insurance, what Nelson was conveying in his seminars.
Yeah, and he talks about how this book is not meant to be a sales tool for life insurance agents, but that is just to be educational for the layman. And he also has a quote in here in the introduction, which I think is very fitting. It's from Will Rogers, and he says that the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know. The problem is what people think they know that just ain't so.
Do you think Nelson picked that because of people's misunderstanding of whole life insurance?
Yeah, and it fits perfectly.
I couldn't agree more. So moving on, with infinite banking, again, we mentioned this in our first podcast, but we aren't setting up your traditional whole life policies, which the industry has focused on teaching agents how to do that. What we're doing is creating a place where we can use a policy as a financing tool, and by creating policies with lesser death benefit and more cash value is how we accomplish that.
Yeah, so you're talking traditional, industry traditional policies. You're talking with the focus on death benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on, Nelson goes on to say in the very next paragraph, this book demonstrates that your need for finance during your lifetime is much greater than your need for protection. As we go through this book review series, that's going to become obvious, I hope, to everybody. But that is why Nelson wrote this book, too, is to get the message out there. Hey, guys, life insurance is so much more than a tool for death benefit.
And he talks about, most people know that you can borrow from a whole life insurance policy, but most people that have whole life are paying very small premiums. So there's just not the capital there that you would even consider borrowing from.
Yeah, because of what the industry taught agents, right? They taught them to pay as little premium as they could and purchase as much death benefit as you can. And that leads to policies that, there just isn't even any cash value in the first 2 years, 3 years in some cases.
And most people don't realize that, their own need for financing themselves, it's very easy to underestimate that.
That's an unreal point you just brought up. Think of how many things that people have to go to the bank for or some type of finance company. College education is one, vehicles, homes. The list is nearly endless. And it just becomes the things that people finance, right, is more today than what it used to be. You can get financing packages on mattresses, for goodness sakes.
Or a PlayStation.
Right. It's just unreal.
So moving on, the whole idea of this process is to recapture the interest that we pay to third parties like banks or just other financing companies.
Right. And how exactly can we do that with whole life insurance?
Well, we get a properly structured whole life insurance contract. We then capitalize that contract to where we have cash value built up that we can borrow against. So when we find an item that we want to purchase, we go and buy that item. But first, we take a policy loan. So we borrow against our cash value and we buy that item. And then over a time that we make ourselves, the insurance company does not tell us when to pay it back or how to pay it back. We pay back our policy loan and our cash value acts like it hasn't been touched, which means that it grows like it's never been removed.
Right. You're only limited by how much cash value you have in your policy. And that has a relationship to how much premium you've paid. So you're in total control. And that's not something that just came about, right? IBC isn't a new shiny object, or object isn't the right
next
word.
fad.
Yeah, IBC isn't some type of product. It's a process of thinking. It's a thought process. And the tool whole life, it's had the characteristics that were needed to do this for a long time, over 200 years, right? It's just that nobody put this together in the way that Nelson did, that you need to add scale to the equation. Because you have such a drastic need for finance, you have to capitalize the policies.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not be afraid to capitalize.
Okay, guys. So we talked about recapturing your interest. That can be on things like we said, homes, vehicles. But we don't want you to think just in the box things like that, right? Maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to start a business, or you have some type of investment opportunity that you've educated yourself about. These policies don't have restrictions on what you can use the money for. So it's up to you how you use these policies.
Yeah, like if you're using a line of credit to purchase inventory or whatever it is, I mean, you can replace that line of credit with this policy. That's something that you own, you control. I mean, it's incredible.
Something that you have contractual rights to borrow against, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know every single day that there's going to be more money with that policy to borrow against every single day of the year.
Yes.
I mean, it's really an amazing tool.
Yes.
And so we brought up investments. Let's just get that out there right now. IBC is not an investment. Whole life insurance is not an investment. And this concept is not about rates of return.
No, it's about having a place to warehouse money. Your money has to reside somewhere. And why not here? Why this is the best place for your money to reside while you wait for opportunities to arise, or just to save for the future.
Right. I mean, there is no clock on this, right? I mean, life is a long-term game. It's a marathon, not a sprint, okay? So you're going to have access to capital at any time that you need it when you structure this policy and implement infinite banking like we do, okay? And what that's going to allow you to do is capitalize on any opportunities that come your way. Any business expansion that you guys want to do, right? Those are all things that you have the opportunity to do. And along the way, you can recapture the interest that would otherwise be lost in traditional forms of finance, like going to the bank and getting a line of credit.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go on from that, Nelson states in here that there are illustrations in this book, and they are important to look at so you can understand how these policies work, but it's not the most important thing of IBC.
Right. It's all based on the fact that this isn't about rates of return, right? Interest rates are up and interest rates are down. Kyle, you and I can't control what the interest rates do. The insurance companies can't control whether they go up or down, right?
Yep.
And so that's why Nelson puts that in there. Yeah, dividend rates were higher at the time when he wrote this book, but that doesn't mean that this concept doesn't work now, right? Comparatively speaking, as Nelson says, it's the same outcome as when he wrote this book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he also states how this is not a procedure to get rich quickly, which some people love to say for whatever reason, but rather it requires long-range planning.
Yeah, Nelson had 5 principles, and the first one was thinking long-range planning. And that comes from, or at least I believe it came from, his education as a forester and being involved in that business. He was always thinking years, we're talking decades out into the future. Yeah. And with IBC, you're doing that as well.
Yeah, he says in here that you should plan as if you're going to live forever and live as if you're going to die today.
Great point. Okay, guys. Next thing, this is not a creature of the tax code. Nelson wants to make it perfectly clear about that because tax qualified plans are a very common avenue for people to want to explore. And if you understand whole life insurance, it was created before the income tax code, right? When was the income tax code created, Kyle?
1913.
1913, right. We're talking about life insurance that's been around for over 200 years, right? This predates the tax code.
So this isn't a tax evasion scheme?
That's exactly right.
But no, Nelson states in here that, all this is like-minded people contracting with one another to solve a financial problem.
Right. There is no government intervention or loophole that we're exploiting. I mean, it's literally you have the choice of whether or not you want to participate and with which companies that you want to participate with.
And it's just like any other insurance, we're insuring against a loss, which this loss be your life.
Right. Good point. So let's hit on that a little bit more here. Okay, so Kyle says we're insuring against a loss. All right, so a lot of people will say that life insurance has tax advantages, but really, do you ever think about it like if you're in a vehicle wreck and the insurance company sends you a check for the wreck that you're in, right? That was for your vehicle, for the damage that occurred to it. Okay, of course that wasn't taxed because that was replacing a loss in your life. It's the same thing with life insurance. And this isn't, I think that just further reaffirms why this is not a tax scheme, a tax dodge of any kind. That's a great point you brought up, Kyle.
So next, Nelson talks about how this is not a bank in the conventional sense. He's just demonstrating that one can use dividend-paying whole life insurance to solve one's need for financing throughout your life.
Yeah, so Nelson, the title of this book is Becoming Your Own Banker. And the subtitle is Unlock the Infinite Banking Concept. What Nelson was saying was you need to behave like the banker does, right?
Yep.
We aren't creating a physical bank, right? We're tapping into a system that already exists with whole life insurance. But it's critical that you guys understand we're just behaving like the banker does, okay? So we need to switch our thought process to what bankers do.
And whole life insurance, properly structured, is the perfect vehicle to do so.
Right. Where else can you have access to capital penalty-free with uninterrupted compounding?
Yeah, and later in the book, Nelson, he'll illustrate that you can bank with other things like CDs, savings accounts, even equipment and stuff and other things like that. But none of those can come close to what dividend-paying whole life can do.
Right. It's not that we're just life insurance salesmen and that, we're trying to sell life insurance. Just like Nelson said at the beginning, this isn't a sales tool. It's just the fact that dividend-paying whole life insurance has all the characteristics and it works better than anything else does to perform the banking function. It works better than CDs. It works better than margin accounts. It works better than using a qualified plan or using the traditional bank, right? I mean, it just has all the characteristics. You're an owner with mutual life insurance companies. When you purchase a whole life insurance policy, you're a part owner. You get a share in the profits. Does that happen at your traditional bank?
No.
Okay. I mean, those are just some reasons we're trying to throw out there why this is the most advantageous place to perform the banking function in your life.
Yep. And Nelson kind of goes into it that this is a major paradigm shift for most folks. I mean, we're not told this. I mean, you can search whole life insurance and get, probably somewhere around 10 negatives for every positive. And those people just don't understand what we're trying to do.
And I think that's another reason why Nelson tries to state all these points at the beginning of this book is to be like, hey guys, come into this with an open mind and understand what we're trying to do here. We're not just purchasing death benefit, right? We're creating a system. This is a system. This won't be just one policy. And it's a place where you can perform the banking function. We keep saying that over and over again because that's all that this is. And Nelson even says in this book that it is the ultimate in simplicity. He's talking about the infinite banking concept, okay? I know it can sound intimidating and it's somewhat hard to understand maybe for an outsider looking in, but once you grasp this concept, you realize that this is nothing more than borrowing, repaying, depositing, and withdrawing money from a whole life insurance contract, a properly structured whole life insurance contract.
Yep.
So, do you have anything else you want to add, Kyle, before we get out of here?
No, I think that kind of wraps up our overview of the introduction. We hope this was helpful for you guys and look forward to going through the book more.
Yeah, same here, guys. Okay, we'll be back soon with the next episode on this book review. So tune in. Thank you.
This was the Cash Value Solutions Podcast. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Check us out at cashvaluesolutions.com. And don't forget to tune in next week.